Imagine facing a creature 10 times stronger than you. A gorilla, muscle-packed, smart, and unpredictable. It doesn't need a weapon. It is the weapon. One swing could shatter bone. One charge could end you. Now imagine this, 100 men, armed with pride, rage, and revenge, walk into its jungle. Not to survive, but to kill. Sounds brave, or foolish. This is the story of what happens when humans challenge the wild, not with wisdom, but with ego. Some sought glory, others justice. But only a few came back, and what followed was even worse than the beast they fought. Before you choose a side, hear this tale. In the ancient lands of Aboso, where the red soil drinks from twin rivers, and the baobab trees whisper tales into the wind, there lived a man named Kofi. A humble farmer. A loving husband. A gentle father. He did not carry a spear, nor wear the war paint of hunters. His weapons were his hands, and his heart. But peace in Aboso was never promised. For deep within the jungle, something stirred. Something, not of this world. The creature they feared was no ordinary animal. It was the mountain gorilla of Nyamkai, a beast of legend. In real-world terms, a silverback gorilla stands nearly 6 feet tall and can weigh over 400 pounds. But the strength, oh, the strength. 5 to 10 times stronger than the average man. You're talking about a creature that can snap bamboo like toothpicks, rip banana trunks in half with a single swipe. It's pure muscle. But the gorilla of this tale was not just muscle. It was magic. Said to be a curse king, draped in black fur, with eyes glowing red like embers from a dying fire. In myth, the gorilla often symbolizes power without reason, raw, ancestral rage. But in African folklore, especially among the Ashanti and Yoruba, such beasts are also tests sent by the gods. Now imagine 100 men, all summoned by the village oracle to face this beast. They came with charms, spears, and fear packed deep into their bones. But fear, my children, is a thief. It steals reason and courage. Some were warriors. Some were hunters. And one, just one, was a man who had never lifted a weapon in his life. His name was Kofi. Kofi loved his son Kojo. He kissed his wife Abina each morning with gentle words. He planted yams with patience. He lived with peace. And yet, the gods called him to fight. Was it right to send a peaceful man into the wild to face death? To send 100 souls into battle with a spirit beast? In many tribal societies, the line between justice and sacrifice blurs. The survival of the whole often outweighs the life of the one. But what happens when the one is the only one with a pure heart? Does the beast recognize that? This is not just a story of man versus beast. It is man versus destiny. Man versus spirit. And the choices we make when we are most afraid. The sacred drum beat at dawn. Boom, boom, boom. The names of the chosen were drawn from the calabash. And when Kofi was called, silence fell like nightfall. Abina, crying. You cannot go, Kofi. You are no warrior. Kofi, come. If I do not go, what will Kojo eat? What will our people become? Kojo cried all day. And so he went. 100 men. Into the jungle. Into the unknown. Certainly. The jungle trembled as the men entered its depths, their hearts pounding louder than the drums that had summoned them. Around them, the jungle held its breath, for even the birds dared not sing when the spirit of the forest walked. Kofi stood alone as the canopy above darkened, the light of day dimmed by the shadow of the beast. Leaves trembled. The air thickened. Then, like a living mountain, the gorilla emerged, massive, black-furred, eyes glowing like twin coals poured from a sacred fire. Each step it took made the earth groan. It sniffed the wind, it breathed a deep rumble. It roared with the sound of war, and in seconds, chaos erupted. Spears were snapped like twigs. Bones shattered beneath its fists. Men screamed as they were hurled into the trees or crushed underfoot. In mere moments, 50 warriors lay broken, the ground soaked in sweat, blood, and fear. The survivors scattered, their battle cries turned to wails. Some dropped their weapons and fled into the bush. Others froze, paralyzed by the sheer power of what they faced. Kofi stood among the fallen, his hands trembling, a machete dangling loosely at his side. But something in him refused to run. As the gorilla charged toward the next cluster of men, Kofi stepped forward, his voice breaking through the madness. Stop. The beast halted. Its crimson eyes turned to him, wide and burning with rage. The gorilla stopped a few paces away, towering over Kofi. The other men had long scattered, some screaming, some silent in fear. But Kofi did not run. His legs trembled, but he did not move. Instead, he looked into the creature's eyes, not with hatred, not with challenge, but with understanding. The gorilla stared back, confused by this man's stillness. Slowly, the gorilla approached him, breathing heavily, shoulders rising and falling like the tide. The air around them was thick with death, yet Kofi did not raise his blade. He dropped it. "I did not come to kill you," he said, voice steady despite his fear. "I came because I love my son, and I love my people. If I must die, let it be for them, but not with hate in my heart." The gorilla bared its teeth, then stopped. Its head tilted. For the first time, it saw not a soldier, not prey, but a man who spoke the truth. "I came with nothing but a father's heart," Kofi replied, steady though afraid. "If I fight you, I lose my soul. But if I stand here and face you, maybe I save my sons tomorrow." The gorilla blinked, its breath heavy, its muscles tense. Then it stepped closer. Kofi did not flinch. He dropped his machete to the ground and placed a hand over his chest. The jungle was silent. Even the wind stilled. In that moment, beast and man were equals, both trapped by fate, both longing for peace. The gorilla growled softly, then spoke again. "Long ago, I was a king. Betrayed. Cursed. My rage turned me into this." It paused, looking away. "But today, you have reminded me of who I was." Then, in a voice low and ancient, the beast spoke, "You are not like the others. You do not carry death in your hands." The beast's chest heaved, and in a voice heavy with sorrow, it said, 50 men came with rage. They died with fear. But you came with courage cloaked in love." It stepped back. The forest quieted. The spirit within the gorilla had seen enough. With a final, deep exhale, it turned from Kofi and vanished into the green. Of the 100 who went into the jungle, only Kofi and a handful of broken men returned. But from that day forward, the gorilla never returned, and Kofi's name was sung by firelight for generations. Kofi walked home alone. Bruised. Broken. Alive. Villagers, shocked, questioned.
"He returned, they returned."
They all rushed to give their loved ones a hug. Okyomi said, "The spirits have spoken. Kofi is chosen." From that day, no beast threatened Aboso again. And under every baobab, by every fire, the elders told this story. Not of the beast who killed, but the man who stood without fear. Because he stood with love. Strength is not always in the fist. Sometimes, it lies in the heart. Remember this tale, child of the earth. And when fear comes for you, stand like Kofi. For even a beast can bow to love. And so, the tale of Kofi became legend, not because he was the strongest, but because he was the bravest. Because in a world that demands blood, he chose peace. The jungle did not need one more killer, it needed one man to listen. That, my friends, is the power of courage wrapped in love. Sometimes, the greatest strength is not in the sword, but in the hand that chooses not to raise it. Let your heart lead where fear cannot. This story took me 7 full days to write, record, and edit. Our channel is not yet monetized, and every watch, like, and comment truly keeps this fire burning. If you enjoyed this African folktale, please subscribe, share it with someone who loves stories, and help us keep the spirit of our ancestors alive. Thank you for watching. They say the jungle grew quiet after the beast vanished. Kofi and the few who survived returned, battered, grieving, but alive. Yet peace does not sit easily in the hearts of men. One father, Mosi Euro, whose son never came back, stood at the edge of the village. His eyes red, his mouth bitter. "My son died for nothing," he whispered. "For Kofi's glory. For nothing." He was no ordinary man. He was a wizard. One whose heart had long been twisted by grief and pride. And in the cover of night, he went to the ancestors, calling on shadows, making blood promises. He summoned Egbere, the spirit that weeps and kills. He offered a goat, and then a child, until the spirit obeyed. And one by one, the 50 surviving youths began to die. In their sleep. In their homes. Eyes wide open. No wounds. No screams. Just silence, and a trace of ashes in the air. Kofi knew. He felt it in the wind, in the way the trees no longer sang. So he went to the shrine. Alone. And there, the wizard stood, his face cracked with power, his eyes glowing white. "I spared you before, Kofi," the wizard hissed. "But not now. Your life is the price for my son." He raised his staff. The sky darkened. Lightning slashed the earth. But when the spell touched Kofi, it broke. The wizard staggered back, confused. Egbere screamed in fury, but would not touch Kofi. The spirit of the jungle protected him. The gorilla spirit was watching. "You made the jungle bleed," Kofi said quietly. "Now it refuses your curse." The wizard screamed, and was swallowed by his own shadow. And Kofi stood alone once more. But this time, he knew. The battle was not with beasts. It was with the broken hearts of men. The village that once danced in celebration now trembled in fear. It began with silence. Obina, the drummer's son, was found lifeless in his compound. No wounds. No struggle. Just wide, staring eyes and a body as cold as clay. Then Toju, who had joked the loudest during the battle, collapsed during supper, his spoon still in hand. The villagers whispered, but no one had answers. When Kwame, strong as a lion, was found bent backward like a broken tree, the people began to scream. By the third night, the death toll had reached 7. Chaik, the hunter's son. Ayola, the gentle boy with the carved walking stick. Sonny, who once outran a wild dog, all gone. And when Ikon, the chief's only heir, was found dead beneath the royal tree, the village erupted. Mothers wailed in the market square. Fathers dug graves with bare hands. Children were locked indoors. Fear walked in daylight, and even the birds stopped singing. The elders said the air smelled like spirits. An emergency meeting was called beneath the sacred Iroko tree. The council of elders, wrapped in red and black cloth, gathered with trembling hands. "This is no ordinary sickness," Elder Ajoni said. "This is a curse." But who? And why? Some blamed the gorilla, believing its soul had returned for vengeance. Others whispered about Kofi, jealous of the honor he carried. And still others feared something older, something forgotten had been awoken in the forest. Desperate and divided, the elders summoned every witch and wizard in the village, both the ones known and those long in hiding. They came at dusk, cloaked in mystery, carrying charms, skulls, feathers, and bones. They were questioned, one by one. "Who among you walks with death?" Elder Fadik shouted. But none confessed. One witch fell to her knees, weeping, claiming, "The darkness is not ours, it comes from betrayal." The crowd murmured. Heads turned. Eyes narrowed. With each burial, hope drained from the land. The trees leaned in, listening. The night wind carried whispers of names yet to die. The people lit fires at every doorstep, left bowls of salt and cola at the crossroads, and tied charms to their children's wrists. But deep down, they all knew this was no plague. This was a punishment. And the one who summoned it still walked among them, smiling by day and feeding shadows by night. It was on the 7th night, when the moon turned red behind the clouds, that Kofi stood up in the elder circle. He had been quiet for days. Watching. Listening. But now, he could no longer keep silent. "I know who walks with death," he said, his voice calm but heavy. The elders froze. The villagers pressed in, holding torches, charms shaking in their hands. The deaths began with a whisper. Kofi said, "A curse born not from the beast of the jungle, but from the beast of a man's heart." He pointed toward the shadows. "It is Motsi Euro," he declared. The father of the fallen boy, the one who had refused to mourn, the one who had not shed a single tear, only spat on the ground and turned away. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Motsi Euro stepped forward, eyes glowing faintly in the torchlight. "Lies," he hissed. "You want to blame me for your failures? My son died while you lived." But Kofi's voice did not shake. "You went to the shrine of broken gods. You fed Egbere. You traded 50 souls for your grief." Suddenly, the ground shook. The fire turned blue. And from Motsi Euro's cloak, smoke began to rise. A scream, one that was not human, escaped his mouth. The villagers stepped back as the wizard's true form began to show. His skin cracked, his shadow split in two, his eyes now white as bone. But when he raised his hand to curse Kofi, nothing came. Kofi stepped forward, calm as ever. "I faced the beast of the jungle," he said, "and it spared me. You fed on the blood of your own people." And just then, a great wind swept through the village. The shrine bells rang though no one touched them. The wind howled as the spirit of the jungle descended, unseen, but deeply felt. The flames bent sideways, the trees groaned like mourners, and even the goats stopped bleating. Motsi Euro screamed, clutching his chest as if something ancient had begun to burn from within. His shadow broke free from his feet and tried to run, but it was caught, snatched by an invisible force and slammed into the ground like a sack of bones. Kofi did not move. He simply raised his palm and whispered a single word, one taught to him by the dying beast in the forest. A golden light erupted from his hand, not bright, but deep and pulsing like the heartbeat of the earth. The moment it touched the wizard, the evil inside Euro began to peel away. His robes caught fire without flame. His charms turned to dust. The necklace of his son, the one he wore out of guilt, rose from his chest and cracked in two. The villagers watched in awe and horror as Motsi Euro dropped to his knees, skin blistering, his voice begging, not for mercy, but for release. "I only wanted him back," he wept. "I wanted my boy." But the ancestors do not bargain with twisted grief. From the air came a thunderous voice, not Kofi's, not human. "You traded innocence for vengeance. Now walk where no man walks." And with a deafening crack, the ground split open beneath him. A rush of black mist surged from the crack, swallowing the wizard whole. His body turned to ash mid-scream. The earth sealed itself with a hiss, leaving only the burned imprint of a man's knees in the soil. The villagers gasped, some fainted, others cried, but none dared speak for several moments. Then the drums began, slow, deep, steady, the jungle's heartbeat returning. When morning came, the skies cleared for the first time in days. The children stopped crying in their sleep. The cursed deaths ended. And the shrine, once dark and broken, now glowed faintly with peace. Kofi, now called the man who walked through spirits, placed a calabash at the site of the wizard's fall. Inside it was salt, cola, and the tears of the mothers who had lost sons. "Let this be the end of evil born from love twisted by pain," he whispered. The village bowed, not to power, but to the truth. And so, the tale of Kofi became legend. Years passed. The village healed slowly, like a tree growing over a scar in its bark. The graves of the 50 boys were honored every harvest, their names etched into stone, their spirits called with song and drum. And Kofi. He never sought praise. He rebuilt his hut near the river, raised his son's younger siblings, and sat often beneath the great Iroko tree, silent, watching the wind move through the leaves like messages from the ancestors. But sometimes, at night, the villagers said they saw a shape at the edge of the forest. A great gorilla, not flesh, not spirit, just watching. Protecting. It never entered the village. It didn't need to. And though peace returned, one lesson remained carved deep in every heart. That love must never be twisted into vengeance. And that even in silence, the spirits are watching, weighing, waiting. So when the children of the village now gather by firelight, they are told, beware of broken hearts that make bargains in the dark, and never forget the man named Kofi, who walked through death, but chose life. In every heart lives the power to heal or to harm. Grief, if left unchecked, can become a weapon even in the hands of a loving father. But courage, like Kofi's, shines even in the darkest forest. Let love guide your actions, not pain. Because vengeance feeds the fire, but wisdom saves the village. If this story moved you, please, like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who loves powerful stories. It took me 7 days to edit this video, crafting every sound, every beat, every word. And though we are not yet monetized, your support brings us one step closer. Subscribe to keep African folktales alive, and let the spirits know you are listening.